Hey, hi everyone.
Hi, sir.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Yes.
Yes, I'm audible, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me. Okay. Hope my screen is visible to all of you.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So now in previous session, what we have learned that how to write your own XPath, right? Okay. So now today we will focus on how to write the CSS, your own CSS, right? Okay. So for the CSS, the to writing the CSS, we have a few things that you have to remember. Okay. So first thing, instead of ID, okay, if you are using ID to identify any element, then in that case you have to say hash. Okay. For the class, you have to say dot. Okay. So for ID, you have to say hash, and for the class, you have to say dot. Okay. So let's take one example. Okay. So for example, if any element is having some ID and I want to identify that particular element on the basis of ID, in that case, what I'm going to say instead of, for example, this particular element label, right? I want to identify this particular labels, then I will copy this particular label and simply I will say, okay, hash, and I will give the ID of that particular label. Okay, so now it's saying one of one. What it means? This is the complete this is the complete CSS selector of this particular element. This is the complete CSS selector of this particular element. Right. So now you can take the multiple element and you can check like, if I'm using hash there, I'm able to identify that particular on the basis of ID or not. Okay. Few of the project or few of the project they are using CSS or they are encouraging you to use the CSS. In that case, you can, otherwise you can say if ID is there, why should I use the CSS, right? But if some case, if it is required to write the CSS, you can use on the basis of ID like this hash and you have to say hash CSS ID. So hash and ID of that particular element. You can identify any element which is having ID. Okay, so for example, this particular element, if I want to identify, then I have to simply say hash and I have to provide the ID of that particular element, right? So if you see, I can able to see the I can able to identify this particular ID. Okay, or this particular element. All right. So this is about the on the basis of ID. All right. So instead of ID, you are going to say hash. So it will understand you are trying to writing the CSS and you're trying to identify the element on the basis of ID. Hash means ID here. Okay. Now for the class. Okay. Now for the class, what you have to
Ajay
say?
sir,
You have to
uh, Ajay sir, in ID hash dot you told. So where we apply dot?
dot. I will tell you, right?
Okay.
Dot is for the class. Okay, hash is for the ID, dot is for the class. So for example, let's say I want to identify any element on the basis of class. Okay, for example, this particular element, right, which is having justify contents int below. This is the class, right? So I'll just copy this particular class. So basically this element is having two classes. I'm taking one of them. Right. So for example, this particular class, I want to identify this element on the basis of class. In that case, I'm going to say dot and I'll give the class name. Okay. Yeah, row is here another one. Okay, so I'll not use the row here. Instead of I'll remove. Okay, single class I'm going to use here. So I'm going to say dot, and if you see dot justify content in, justify content end. All right, so this is one class, and on the basis of class, this particular class, I have identified this particular element. All right, so tomorrow, for example, let's say, is there any class? So for example, this particular class, right? If I want to identify this particular element, so I will just copy the class and I'll say dot, and I'll give the class. Okay, so this is how we can write the CSS on the basis of class. Right. Now we are learning XPath, we are learning CSS. Why we are learning XPath and CSS? What is the reason? Where we are going to use this?
We can build our own.
Right. That's fine. We can build our own XPath, we can build our own CSS. But where we are going to use this XPath and CSS in our script? Why we required this,
To find the
Because in
element
To find
correct.
the
on the
Correct.
basis
To
element,
find
web
to
element.
find the element, we
web
have
page.
seen like there are seven different locator in that CSS and XPath. These are the two locators available. So you can select by dot CSS and you can provide this. Okay, we are not taking example because we have already shown we have already shown that, right? How to apply the CSS. Okay, or how to apply how to find the element on the basis of your XPath. Right. So that's the reason I'm not showing here. Okay. But you guys can try, try to find this particular element and try to perform some action on that particular element. Okay. As of now, we are just looking for the syntax, how to write the CSS, how to write the XPath. Right. I'm not taking the example, but you guys can try, uh, write your own CSS, write your own XPath, and try to find out that element with the help of driver.find elements. Okay. Okay. Now, if it is clear, then next way of finding the element. So let's assume that I am having one element. Okay, so for example, this particular element, and this is not having any class, this is not having any ID. Consider that it's not having any ID. ID is there and class is also there, but assume that this particular element is not having any ID. Okay, but it is having placeholder. Okay, so can I identify this particular element on the basis of, let's say, ID? Yes, it is possible. So for that, you have to use the attribute. Okay, so like how we can use the XPath, similar way you can use it here as well. Okay, so what is the way? So for that, what we need to say, you have to say, you have to say input, input. That means first of all tag name. Okay, then square bracket, open close. Okay, in XPath as well, we have seen similar technique, double slash, then tag name, then your square bracket. In square bracket, we are going to write the at the rate for the XPath, but here you are not going to write the at the rate. Instead of that, you are directly going to say placeholder is equal to full name. Placeholder is equal to full name. Okay. So this is your CSS selector. This is your CSS selector for that particular element. Okay. So what basically we are doing here? Okay. So we are saying like, first of all, I'm going to use the, first of all, I'm going to use the tag name. So I'm saying here tag name. Okay, tag name, then square bracket, open close, and then I'm saying like attribute. So placeholder is attribute and value of that particular attribute. So here at the rate I'm not using, and double slash as well not using. If I use the at the rate and double slash, so it will looks like this particular. So we have seen the couple of example, right? So similar to this, only at the rate we are not using, and this particular double slash not using. Okay, so this is your CSS selector. This is your CSS selector. For the CSS, you have to write the syntax like this. For the CSS selector, you have to write the syntax like this. Okay, so this is about the finding any element on the basis of their attribute. Okay, so you can use the any attribute. It's not like that you have to use the placeholder always, right? So for example, let's say tomorrow if I want to find this particular thing, right? So here type is equal to text, but I believe this type is equal to text is not unique. Okay, so placeholder here I can use, right? So you can find out is there any attribute on the basis of which I can identify that particular element or not, right? If it is, then you can pass it, I mean, you can apply. For example, uh, let's say if I want to identify something on the basis of ID is there, so you're going to use the hash. Okay, so let's take some different example. Okay, so let's say on this particular page, let's say inspect this one. So let's say this is a submit button, right? So submit is having name, right? Or submit is having placeholder. Submit is having, sorry, this is the input box, right? So if I inspect this one, so submit is having type is equal to submit as well. So in this case, I am going to say, mm, this is my button. So I'm going to say button. Okay. Now square bracket. Okay. And inside the square bracket, what I need to say, type equals to what?
Submit.
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 Type is equal to submit. Now, if you see, it's saying like, one of one, right? So you have to find out is there any attribute on the basis of which I can identify that element or not. If it is, then you can write down your CSS selector like this. Okay, so here you have to mention the tag, and then you have to mention the attribute name, and then you have to mention the attribute value. Okay, so this is the third way. Okay, so first way we have seen the on the basis of hash, then on the basis of ID, on the basis of class name, on the basis of attribute. Now, can I match something partially? Okay, so let's say I'm having, for example, let's take the example. Okay, so before that, let's understand the what are the different ways available here. Okay, so if I want to identify something on the basis of let's say um, on the basis of let's say start with. Okay, so in that case, I'm going to use this particular operator, that is the cap operator. Okay, then till operator is for matching partial content, and then dollar operator is you are going to use for the end with, right? So all these we are going to do on attribute only. Okay, but sometimes I want to match only starting. Sometimes I want to match only content. Sometimes I want to match only end. In that case, there are three options available. Okay, so first, so here mostly you will get the what you will get the symbol in CSS selector. So let's say for the ID you are getting the hash, this is the symbol. For the class you are going to get the dot, this is symbol. So here method will not available, but you will get the symbol for each most of the actions, right? So let's say start with. Okay, so how to do with the help of start with. So for example, let's take the example. Okay, so for example, it's having continuous one. Okay, so for example, if I'm saying like, let's try this one. I want to match let's say, start with, right? So in that case, I'm going to say I want to identify this particular input, this particular input. So I'm going to say slash slash in, sorry, not slash slash input. Then I'm going to say which is having name equals to, okay, name equal to this one, right? So this is the complete CSS, complete CSS of this particular element. Okay, but assume that I want to match only starting, that is the user. Okay, so in that case I'm going to say this particular uh, caret symbol. Okay, and I'm going to say only user, not I'm going to mention the name. I'm going to say user only, right? So in that case as well, if you see, I'm giving the only, I'm not giving the full name of that particular attribute. I'm giving the only starting of that particular attribute. That is the name. Sorry, that is the user. Okay, but still I'm able to identify that particular element. Still I'm able to identify that particular element. So that means I can give the partial attribute. For that, you have to use this particular caret symbol. For that, you have to use the caret symbol. Right. So what if if I want to match something as a partial partial, right? So for example, this is matching the starting, but if I want to match only this much of text, okay, ERN, okay, ERNA, okay. So in that case, I'm going to say ERNA, okay. So that is ERNA. Right. Now in this case, start with is not working. Start with is not working. So what should I use? Okay, so if you see, for that symbol is that tilt operator is there. Okay, so let's try with the tilt operator. Okay, so we have this particular operator, tilt operator. This is your which function? Mm,
End with
no, contents.
contents.
All right, so contents is not working here. Okay, which is okay. So input name tilt is equal to user. Okay, but it's not working here. Okay, so let's try on different side. Okay, I think we are doing something wrong. If I'm saying here tilt operator and then I'm giving only name, it's working. Right. Suppose if I'm saying like, it's working like this.
If we give full Ajay, it will work. Just full.
Full it will work.
Full.
Okay, but I'm trying to give the partial one because we are
Person.
using the contents, right? Content means partial matching. Full,
Only
again
just
it's
full name, not name.
full as well, it will work. Okay. But I'm wondering why if I'm giving double L space N, it should work. I think double L space N.
Name.
It's not working. Right. So I'm not sure why if either starting or either ending I can give here. Okay. But if it is the case, then if I'm
Sir,
giving the name,
N hello.
mm-hmm.
Sir, N should be in capital letter.
Okay, N
Then
should be
it
capital.
will match.
No, it's not matching in that case as well. If I'm giving name full, then it's matching. But if I'm giving only,
If we give AME,
mhm,
still not matching. Last three were AME.
let me check if I'm giving ID. Okay, and ID is equal to which ones? Hmm. If I'm giving user, in that case as well, it's not matching, right? So then what is the use of this contents one? Shall I give it in double quotes?
Ajay, can we give the
Which one?
text
Text forward.
instead of ID? I'm saying that.
Instead of ID, text, how I'm saying ID here, right? So I can
Yeah.
ideally give the ID. All right. So if I'm saying like, type, then I can give the text, right? But
Yes.
issue is that it should use the contents because we are using this particular method, contents.
Okay. Yes.
Contents. Okay, so for contents, you are going to use the this particular tilde operator.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
but if it is having okay, what I'm assuming that it should work if your attribute is if I'm giving something from the attribute, let's say this placeholder is having password, right? So if I'm giving pass only, then it should work. If I'm giving uh, uh, double S W O, then it should work. But in
Okay.
this way, it's not working. Okay, so that's the reason I'm just trying it how it should work. Okay, so let's say this is the input. I'm giving the placeholder, and here I'm saying the password first. Okay, now it's working with the placeholder tilt password, right? Now, if I'm saying pass, it's not working. It's not working. So I think it's calculating on the basis of space. If it is having space before the space and after the space, you have to give the word complete word. So here in this case, so here in this case, if you see this is having full is a separate word and name is a separate word. So you can give the full as well as name. All right. So this is how it should work. Full separate and name separate. All right. If I'm giving the full, then it should work. If I'm giving the name, it should work. Full, it's working. And if I'm giving the name, it should work. All right. So either I can give the full or name. It should work. Okay. But I'll check, why it's not taking the, if I'm giving something double L space N, what I was believing that it should work if I'm giving something partial as well, right? Let me try it again. Okay, like this, it's not working. Okay, okay. So it is matching, starting with as well as ending with. Okay, for both it will work. Okay, but it should be the separate word, right? So full name here, both are separate. So I can give the full, it will work. If I'm giving the name, it will work. Right. So this kind of, it's not working on the only if it is having complete word that username is one word, right? So in that word, if I'm giving something partial, it's not working, right? But this kind
It's
of attribute,
taking if
it's working.
it's taking if there is a space in between any value.
Yeah, yeah, that's correct. Okay. So this is about the
Ajay sir, Ajay
yes,
sir,
Nitin.
instead of writing tilt symbol, can we write contains method
Content
with that?
methods here. No, contents method will not work here.
Only symbol will work.
Only symbol will work. Contents method will not work here.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So next one that we have is the order selector. Order selector means in XPath, how you are giving the order. Let's say if it is element, I'll show you. Okay. So how we are giving the order. So let's say if I'm having multiple div, so I can say like, I want to go for the second div. So here I'm giving the order, which div I want to go. All right. Which div I want to go. Okay. So here as well in CSS selector as well, you can do the same thing. Right. So if you see, I just skip this particular part. Okay, ends with, because this ends with is having some issue with the latest browser, so it will not work on the few of the CSS engines, right? So uh, this will not work. Okay, ends with will not work on few of the machines. So what I'll do, I'll just copy the and I'll check it. Okay, it's working or not. Okay, so basically you can give the ends of any string. Okay, so before that, let me check it's working or not. I think it's not. Yeah, it's working. Ends with it's working. If I'm giving here name, okay. So similar, I mean, how we are having start with, similar we have ends with as well. So for that, you have to give the ending of that particular word, any word. Okay. So for that, what you have to do, you have to use the dollar symbol. So dollar symbol is for ends with. Okay. So we have seen the three symbols. We have seen the three symbols. Okay. So first symbol, which is talking about the start with. For that, we are going to use this cap symbol. Okay. So this particular cap symbol for the start with. Okay, so this particular symbol is for contents. Okay, and this particular dollar symbol is for is for ends with. Dollar is for the ends with. Right. So now, if I want to go for the ordering of the element, right? So how to go for the order of the element? Okay. So for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to say, let's say, okay. So for example, this particular element, if I want to identify. Right. So how to identify this particular element with the help of CSS? This particular element, which is having ID is equal to username. For ID,
Tag,
we are going to use the hash, right?
tag,
The form
hash,
bracket ID equal to.
Okay. But if it is ID, then can we say like, hash only, hash user form,
Yes.
right? Because it's having ID, right? So I'm going to say hash user form, right? Now, if I want to go for the child of this particular form. Okay, who is the child of this particular form? So let's say this is the child of this particular form, right? So how I am going to say? I'm going to say bracket and then div, angular bracket and div. So it's saying like, there are 6 childs available. Okay, it's going for the child, but it's saying like, there are 6 childs are available. There are 6 childs are available. Okay. Now I'm interested in a last child only. I'm not interested in first child. I'm not interested in second child as well. I'm interested in, let's say, last child. In that case, there is one method available. That is the last child method is there. Okay, so you have to say colon and last child. Colon last child method is there. So because I'm not interested in this particular first element, second element, third element. I'm interested in this last element, right? So in that case, I'm going to say colon and last child. So now if you see it's saying like, one of one, and it's just highlighting this particular element. It's just highlighting this particular element. Okay. Now assume that I am interested in first element only, right? So instead of last element, last child. Okay. So last, instead of last child, I'm going to say
first
first
child.
child. Okay. So first child and last child. Currently I am on this particular element, and from this element there are 6 child available. If I want to go for the first child, then I'm saying like, first child, and it's saying one of one. It's not saying one of 6. Why? Because I'm saying, okay, there are 6 child available. Okay, but I'm interested in first child only. So that's the reason I'm saying like, div colon first child. Div colon first child. I'll just, copy this one here, paste it here. Okay, now if you see, I'm saying like, colon first child, colon first child. So it is just highlighting the first child. If I want to go for the last child, then I'm going to say last child, last child. Okay, now it's going for the last child. Okay, but what if, I'm interested in this particular third child. I'm interested in third child. In that case, how it will work? Then in that case, you have to say the nth child. Correct. And three. Nth child 3. Okay, so this is the method available, nth child. Okay, so instead of last and first, I'm saying like, now nth, I'm saying nth, and in bracket, I'm passing the which child I want to go. I want to go for the third, right? So that's the reason I'm saying like, third, right? So if it is highlighting the multiple child and I'm interested in, let's say, third child only, in that case, I'm going to say div nth child 3, nth child 3. Okay. So you guys can see the difference. Okay. So for first child, I'm saying like, go first child, last child, there is direct method, last child. Or if you're interested, let's say third child, in that case, I'm going to say like, nth child 3, nth child 3. Okay. So this is clear how to do it, how to go for the child.
Yes, sir. Sir, nth child, if we write one, then automatically it will go selecting the first child
Correct.
instead of
If I
writing.
say like, if I say like, first, it will go for the first. If I say second, it will go for the second, third, fourth, fourth, fifth, sixth. It is going for the sixth as well. If I say seventh, there is no seventh child, right? So it will not find any element. Okay. So but for the nth child, you can give the any number, it will highlight that particular child. Okay, but that child should be exist. Okay. So if you are okay with this one, no need to remember this one, this as well. Okay. Okay. It will with the help of this, you can perform first, second, last, third, anyone. Nth child method is there. You have to remember this one. Nth child. Okay. Now after the nth child, if I want to go for the sibling, right? So for example, let's say I'm on third one. Let's say if I'm on third one, okay. Now this element is having any sibling available? Yes, multiple siblings available, right? If you are here, so this one is the sibling, this one is the sibling, this one is the sibling, this one is the sibling. These are the siblings. Siblings means on the same level. Currently, I am on third one, right? If I want to go for the sibling, then there is method available. That is the uh, tilt. Then I have to say div. Okay. Now if you say I'm just going for the following sibling, just following sibling, right? If you see, it's just going for the following sibling here, right? So tilt is the symbol there that you can use for the following sibling. Okay. What about the preceding sibling? Okay. Now one thing you have to remember for the CSS selector, that CSS selector is move only from the top to bottom. CSS selector, you can move from the top to bottom only. That means I cannot move for the preceding sibling here. I cannot move from this element to the parent one. I cannot move from this element to the grandparent. That is the ancestor, right? So I cannot move in bottom to up direction. I can move from the top to bottom. So this is the top. From the top, you can move for bottom. Okay. From the bottom, you cannot move for the top. Right. So here your preceding sibling is not available. Here your ancestor is not available. Okay. Following sibling is available. What about descendant? Descendant is available or not here? Okay. So descendant is also available here. Okay. So let's assume currently I am on this particular node. So for example, this particular node currently I'm on, right? So this is the node, right? So how to identify this particular node? Okay, before that, what I'll do, I'll just copy it. I'll keep it here. Okay. Now what I want to do, I want to uh, uh, find out this particular element. Which one? This particular div. So how to find out with the help of CSS selector? This particular element, how you can find out? Div
Dot
class is,
class
Hash
name.
yes, dot class name.
Dot
dot
All right. So I'm
class.
going to say dot class name. All right. If it now if it's you see it's saying one of one. All right. But I want to go for the all the child classes and grandchild classes of this particular div. Okay. So this particular div might be having multiple div child classes, right? I want to go for all the all the child classes and grandchild classes. For that, what I need to do is, I need to say only space and div. Okay, nothing else. Okay, I just have to say space and div. So this is work similar as your descendant. This will work similar as your descendant. So that's the reason if you see, it's saying how many childs, how many childs available? One of 16. That means
16.
childs and grandchilds are available, 16 available here. All right. So from this you can move any child, right? So you can go here. If I let's say go further, see these are the different childs and grandchilds available for that particular div. Right. So there are 16 available there, right? So it will highlight all the childs and grandchilds. Okay. This is about your following sibling and descendant. Right. Now here preceding sibling is not available and your ancestor is also not available. Parent is also not available in case of CSS selector. Okay. So CSS selector mostly you have to remember the symbol. Okay. So first symbol is that hash is there, which is used for ID. Then dot is there, which is used for the class. Okay. Then you can give the tag name, attribute name, and their value to identify any element on the basis of attribute. Okay. Now if you want to match for the start with, end with of the any attribute, then in that case you are going to use the cap operator, tilt operator for the contents, and end with for the ends with you are going to use the this particular operator, place holder. Sorry, this particular
Dollar.
dollar operator. Right. Now, if I go want to go for the child, then this bracket you are going to use, that is a greater than symbol, sorry, less than symbol. Okay. It is going to navigate you for the child. Less than symbol is going to navigate you to the child. Okay. But I'm interested in nth child or specific child, right? In that case, you can give the order. For the order, you have this method. Okay, first child, then you are having method last child, and you can go for the nth child as well. Okay, first child, last child, and nth child. Okay, for the sibling, you are going to use this particular tilt operator, and for the descendant, you are going to use the space. Descendant, you are going to use the space. Okay, so this is about your CSS selector. Okay, CSS selector, you cannot move in upward direction. Okay. So what I'll do, I'll share this two documentation with you. Okay, so this particular XPath, so that you can go through and you can try it by your own. Okay, and apart from this, I'll share the CSS document as well with you today. So try for at least 2 to 3 elements for each type. Right. So let's say, for example, for the XPath, right? So if I'm saying like, text method, right? So try to apply this text method for, let's say, 4 to 5 different elements. So let's say content method is there, right? So try to apply this method for the different element. All right. Okay. Yes or
Yes,
no?
sir. Sir, yeah. Sir, we have used descendant method space div.
Mm-hmm.
That both class name and then space and then div.
Div.
So it includes 16, I mean sibling in that descendant.
Mm-hmm.
So if we want to include 17 that we have, so or self we have used earlier,
Right. Or self is not here.
but here it is not possible, right?
No, no, here it is not possible. Or self, I'm not sure. Okay. But or self, I haven't seen. Okay, or self is there or not. Okay. So probably
It
or
means
self is not. Yes.
XPath is more flexible than CSS.
Right. So see, at the time of interview, interviewer can ask, which one is better, XPath or CSS? XPath or CSS, which one is better? What do you think? Which one is better?
XPath, sir.
XPath is better.
Actually, CSS is better.
Why? Why CSS is better? Because it's having symbol, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other reason?
Sir, someone says CSS is having faster execution than XPath.
Right. So for XPath, it is having separate XPath engine. Okay. So every browser is having their own XPath engine, and it's differed from browser to browser how it is executing on that particular XPath engine, right? So which XPath engine that particular browser is using, depending on that, it's depend how faster that XPath is going to execute, right? So it's not having, I mean, huge difference between, execution speed of your XPath and execution speed of your XPath. Okay, but typically, CSS is your lightweight as well as faster. CSS is your lightweight and you're faster. Okay, so execution speed wise, if you ask, then CSS is better. Okay, but if you see, I mean, to write the to identify any complex element, then XPath is much better, right? Why? Because XPath you can move in forward direction as well as backward direction. You are having multiple methods to do that, right? So XPath is best in that case. Okay,
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Sir, in which
Ajay.
case we prefer CSS?
sorry.
Uh,
I
Hello.
mean, in which case, we prefer CSS?
Which case, I mean,
Writing.
see, if you're okay with the CSS, right, and you are able to find out the element, with the basis of CSS. Okay. So, for example, let's say few of the element you are able to identify with the help of CSS only, right? So, in that case, you use the CSS. But let's say yesterday I have shown one example, right, where I was clicking on that delete button, right? So, in that case, I believe like your XPath is more flexible there, right? So you can use the XPath there. But if you are having an example like this, right? So for example, let's say the one example that I have shown here, right? So if I want to identify, let's say this particular element wrapper, right? So it's having ID, then simply I will say hash ID. Okay, it's having ID, then typically I'm going to use the ID locator. Okay, because this is more faster than CSS as well. Okay, then if you
Yes, sir.
are if I'm having, let's say, this particular class, right? So dot class, I want to identify this particular, right? In that case, I'm not going to write the XPath for this. I will simply say dot and I'll give the class name. So it will identify this particular element, right? So if it is easily identifiable element, then I'm going to use the CSS. If it is not, if it is required to navigate forward, backward direction, like the example that we have seen yesterday, those kind of cases, you are going to use the XPath. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but
Yes.
I mean,
Thank you.
it will not differ much. Okay, so you don't have to worry. But interviewer can ask this kind of question. Okay, uh, it will not make much difference. Okay, but don't give the answer like this. Okay, it will not make much difference. Okay, okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, see, HTML relationship we have done with. Okay, now next thing is that we have to select element from the drop down. You have to select the element from the drop down. Okay. So how to select the element from the drop down? What do you think? How to select the element from the drop down? Okay. So before that, what we'll do? We'll see what kind of different drop down is available in market. All right. So if I go here and if I just a minute, select one. Okay. So see here on this particular page, we are covering all kind of drop down. Apart from these, there are no different drop down available in market, right? So most of the drop down is going to available from this page only. All right. So first drop down that we have is this particular drop down, right? So this particular drop down is having some special thing. Okay, what it is? So let me inspect. Okay. So if at the time of interview, if interviewer giving like, let's say automate this particular drop down, then don't use, straightforward way. Okay, first of all, try to inspect that particular drop down. Okay, now if you see this particular drop down is using which tag? Which tag is used here?
Select, select.
Select tag is used,
Select.
right? So if it is having select tag and list tag, okay, so these two tags you just have to note down in your notebook, that select tag and list tag. Okay, so list tag is not, I mean, list or example is not here, but it is similar to this one only. Okay, so list and select. If it is having list or select tag, in that case, you can automate directly with the help of Selenium. Okay, I'll tell you how. Okay, now this is the first example. It's having the which tag? List tag available for this particular dropdown. All right. So, but if you see, I can only select the single value here. I can only select the single value here. Right. So I can say like, this is old style, simple select drop down. Select why? Because select tag is there. Select tag is there. Right. So that's the reason I'm saying like, select drop down. Select tag drop down here. Right. If I go further down, right. So if you see, this is the second type of drop down. This is the second type of drop down where I can select the multiple option. Okay, so this is the first option I have select, second, third, and fourth. Right, so I can select the multiple options here. Right, see, I'm able to select the multiple options here. Okay, so this is the multiple select drop down, and let's try to inspect this particular drop down as well. Okay, if you see, this drop down is as well made up of which tag? Select tag. Okay, so select, if it is select tag drop down, it's very easy to automate this kind of drop down with the help of Selenium. Direct methods are available there, right? So this particular method, list is having select tag. This particular list is having select tag. Okay, but there are few methods available in, there are few lists available in market which is not going to have the list tag. Okay, if I go here now, if you see, this particular drop down is not having any list here available, right? So let's try to inspect this drop down again, right? So it is made up of div, right? It is made up of div. When I'm clicking on this, dynamically this particular tag is going to update. Okay, now if you see, dynamically tag is updating. When I'm clicking on this, it is loading. After clicking, it's just loading the options. Before that, options are also not available there, right? Then I can able to select this one. I can able to select, that means multiple select drop down is there, right? Okay, multiple select drop down is there, but which is made up of div. Okay, and if I go here and if I try to inspect this particular drop down, this particular drop down is also made up of, div only. All right, but whenever I will click here, if you see, HTML is getting changed here, right? So if you see here, if I'm clicking here, HTML is getting changed. That means these options are dynamically loaded in HTML. These options are dynamically loaded into the HTML. So whenever I'm clicking here, then in that case, click event is triggered. And once the click event is triggered on that particular dropdown, it's just loading these menus. These options are loaded, right? So by default, these options are not available in your HTML. When you are clicking on this particular dropdown, these options are available. Similarly, here as well, this particular dropdown is as well made up of your div only. Okay, this is made up of your div only, right? Okay. Now, how to handle this kind of drop down? So everyone got what is meant by drop down, right? So there are multiple drop down available. So basically, as of now, you can say two types of drop down available. Okay. So first one is the single select drop down, and second one is the multi select drop down. Single select and multi select. Single select and multi select drop down available. Forget about the drop down which is made up of div, that we'll see later. Okay, so first of all, if I'm having drop down and which is having select tag available, right, so technique basically this kind of drop down, right? So this particular drop down is having, let's say, multiple options here. Okay, so whenever I'm clicking on this, these options are shown here, right? If I'm not clicking here, in that case as well, these options are available in DOM. These options are available in DOM. Okay, so if drop down is this kind of drop down, how to automate this kind of drop down? Okay, so for that, there are a few steps that you have to follow first. Okay, okay. So first of all, you have to create the object of this particular select class. You have to create the object of select class. Okay, so let's take one example. For that, I will open the Eclipse. Okay, I think we are working on this particular file or this particular. Where is our test? Test is here, right? So, okay, so I don't need this. So what I'll do, I'll just remove it. Okay. Now, same setup that we have done previous session, that same setup I'm using here. Okay. Now I want to go for this particular page directly. So that's the reason I'm just updating the URL of this particular page. Okay, so this is the URL. So I will go here and I'll say update URL so that I can directly navigate on that particular page. So I'm just updating the URL here. All right. So okay. So okay, I have updated the URL. Now see, whenever I will run this particular script, what basically it will do, it will open that particular page. All right. So let's say run this particular page or run this particular script. It will basically open that particular page. Which page? That select drop down page. All right. Okay, it will wait for, till the page is load. Okay. Okay. Now I'm not doing anything on this particular page. Okay. So what I'll do, I want to operate on this particular drop down, that is the color drop down. So for that, I'm just inspecting this particular drop down, and I could see this particular drop down is, built with the help of select tag. So with the help of Selenium, I can able to automate this particular drop down. So for that, what I need to do, I need to create one object of select class. So for that, I'm going to say select. Okay. So remember, you have to use the select from the Selenium support UI only, right? So in SQL as well, if SQL is installed on your machine, then you are going to get multiple options for the select, but remember you have to use the select from this particular Selenium only, right? So I'm selecting the Selenium and I'm going to say select is equal to new. Basically this is one class available, select is one class available. So I'm saying here select. Basically I have created one object, right? But if you see, this particular object is expecting something. Okay, so what it is expecting? Okay, as argument, what it is expecting, this particular constructor, what is mentioned there?
Web element.
Web
Web
element.
element. Web element is parameter, right? So basically, you have to pass the web element. Now, which web element should I pass? Right. So what you need to do? You need to identify this particular element. That means this list I have to identify, and I can pass that particular element to my list. I can pass this particular element to my list. Oh, sorry, to my select class, right? So basically this element I have to identify. So how to identify this particular element, which is already having one ID available. So I'm going to use the ID of this particular element. Okay. So now what I'm going to say here, web element. Okay. So I will say uh, list is equal to, okay, list is equal to what? Driver dot find element by
By
dot
ID.
ID. Okay, so ID of that element. Okay, so basically this particular element is your list element, right? So this web element I have to pass to the this particular
List.
list object. Okay, so what we did, we have identified this particular element. Okay, so we have identified this particular element with the help of driver dot find
ID.
element by dot ID. We got this element, and that element we are passing to this particular select class object. That element we are passing to the select class object. Now, once this is done, okay, after that, what you need to do, for example, if I want to select something, right? So there are three different methods available for selecting the element. Okay, so what are those? So first one is the select dot select by index, select by visible text, sorry, select by value and select by visible text. So these are the three methods available for the selecting element. Okay. So first of all, what is meant by select by index? Okay. Select by index means if I open this particular drop down, so this is the index. Okay. So this is the index, or you can say like, from these options, let's say this is first, second, third index are there, right? So let's say I want to select the red. In that case, I'm going to say select by index, select by index, and I'm going to give the index. Let's say I think 0 is first index. Okay, so I'm going to give the 0. Okay, so let's see it's working or not. So if I'm giving the 0, that means it should select the first element. Okay, actually it's selected, but what is the problem here? That this page is not scroll, right? So if I run this again, I'll show it to you guys. Right. If I run it, now if you see red is already selected, red is selected here. Okay, which is selected by your script because you are giving the option 0. That's the reason it's selected. Now you will say like, it's already selected. It's not because of our script. So for that, what I will do, I'll make script little bit slow so that you can understand it. Okay, so initial, oh, red is already selected. Okay, fine. Red is already selected. Then what we'll do, we'll select the second color, that is the blue, right? So for that, what we need to say, select by index,
Change index 3,
one,
2, 1. Well,
correct, one, I'm going to say.
yeah, index.
Because zero is, we're assuming is
First
the first
time.
element, right?
Mm,
So red is already selected. Now it should select the blue.
blue.
Now if you see, blue is selected here. See, blue is selected, right?
Yes.
Right. So with the help of select by index, you can easily select any element, but you should remember the index of that particular element. All right. So if I want to select, let's say this particular black, then I have to say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Fifth index for the black. If I'm giving the fifth index, so it should select the black color. Okay, black color means
4.
value from the drop down. Fifth value for from the drop down.
It will select on the basis of index, right,
Yeah,
Ajay?
it's right.
So
It will
it will
select on the
select.
basis of
So it will select 4.
no black. If you
Oh,
see, so red is having zero index. This is one, two, three, four, and fifth. For the black, it's fifth. So that's
okay,
the
5th.
reason
Yeah.
fifth index black is selected. Right. So this is the first option of selecting any element, any drop down element. Right. So select by index. Select by index. So this is the first way of selecting element. Select by index. Okay. Now what is the select means what? Select means the object that I have created. I'm using that particular object. So tomorrow, if I'm saying like, this is only SEL, right? So I'm going to say SEL dot select by index. Okay. So this object I'm using here, right? Now I'm going to say SEL dot, let's say select by, let's say visible text. Select by visible text. So what it visible text means? So if you see, whenever I'm opening this particular drop down, this is the visible text. Okay, red, blue, green, yellow, purple, black, white, violet. Right. So this is the visible text for me. Right. So for example, if I want to select the aqua, right. So in that case, I will just copy this aqua text and I'll say select by visible text aqua. Select by visible text aqua. Okay. Red is selected. Now it should select the aqua. Now see, aqua is selected. Right. So second method that we have seen, it's a select by visible text. Select by visible text. Okay, select by visible text. Right. So this second method, you can select any by visible text. Visible text means what are the text displayed here, right? So aqua, indigo, violet, white, black. So I can pass that particular this text to that particular method, and I will say, select the value on the basis of visible text. On the basis of visible text. All right. So apart from this, there is one third method is available. Okay. So that method is the select dot select by value. Select by value. Now what it is? Select by value. Okay. Now if I go to the DOM, if I go to the DOM, if you see, this is the DOM. Okay. In DOM, there is one value available. Okay. Value attribute is available. In DOM, there is one value attribute is available. So I can select any element basis of this particular value. Any element basis of this particular value. Right. So this particular value I can use. So now if you see this value, it's saying like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Only first element is having value red. Okay. Other element is having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are not index. These are not index. So this developer or whoever developed this particular drop down, they have given this attribute as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Tomorrow, if someone develops, so he is going to say like, value is like, maybe, let's say element 001, element 002, element 00. He can give any value here, right? So I'm not using index here. So let's say I want to say like, select this particular purple. So purple is having value. If you see, purple is having value 4. Purple is having value 4. Okay, so I will copy this particular value 4. Okay, and I'll pass it here. Select by value. Select by value. So I am interested in selecting element by value. So I will see what is the value here available in DOM. So DOM is having 4 value available here. So tomorrow, if you are working on different element and it's having different value here, so you have to copy that particular value and you have to pass that particular value to here. So in this case, the value is 4. That's the reason I'm passing here 4. I'm giving it double quote because this is not an index. Okay, although it's number, but this is not index. So this particular function is accepting the string. So I should pass the string. I'm passing the string here, right? So if you go to the DOM, so fourth one is the purple. So it should select the purple one. It should select the purple. Okay, so purple is selected. Purple is selected, right? So this is how we can select any value from the drop down. So now I'm scrolling it manually to show you guys, but there are few methods available for the scrolling as well. Okay, so going forward, you are not going to use the scroll manually. Okay, so I will tell you how to scroll it. Okay, but in upcoming session, how to scroll the application through the automation script. Okay, this is about the selecting element or selecting any option on the basis of value. Okay, so there are uh, three methods available. So first method is, let's say, select by index, select by visible text, and select by value. Select by index, select by index, select by visible text, and select by value. So these are the three methods available for the selecting element. Now, for the deselecting as well, there are few methods available. But in case of single select, we don't have need to deselect the values, right? So if I'm previously aqua is selected, and if I'm selecting different element, so let's say I'm selecting white, so by default aqua is deselected, right? So as of now, we are not going to go for the deselect method. Okay, apart from what are the different options available here, that we are going to see. Okay, so I'll say select. Okay, yes, sel dot select dot. Okay, so what are the options here? Deselect, we are not going to see. Okay, so get all selected, get first selected, or get option method is there, right? So what is this get option method? What is this get option method? Okay, if I'm hovering this, what it is saying? Okay, so what it will do, basically it will return the list of web element. List of web element of what? Okay, so whatever elements available in this particular list, it will return all the element in the form of web element. It will return all the element in the form of web element. So for example, if I want to, read the text of each and every option. Okay, if I want to read the text of each and every option, then how I can do it? So for that, I'm going to say select. Okay, select dot get option, and I'm going to what this method is going to return, what it is
List
returning,
of web element. List of
list
web
of web
element.
element. Correct, it's returning the list of web elements. So technically what I need to do, I need to create one more variable. So I have to say list of web element,
Web element.
web element, and what this particular list of web element is returning, sorry, what this list of what should I give the name of list of web element? So I'll give the all
Option.
options. Okay, so basically what this particular get option method is going to do, it will going to read all the options from this drop down. Okay, and it will return in the form of web element. So we are storing all the web element in this particular all options, right? So now I have to fetch element one by one. So how to fetch it? With the help of for, right? So I'm going to
each
say web element each element colon
All option
all
options.
option all options. All right. So it will fetch the option all the options. So first option and it will keep it here. Second option it will add it here. Third option it will assign to here. Okay. So likewise it will read all the options from this particular drop down. Okay. Now if I'm getting all the options, so what I need to do? I need to say system.out.println
Each element.
each element dot
Each element.
I
Get
want each element dot what? I want to print the text. Right. So how to get the
text.
text from the web element? Which method is available? From
Size.
the from
get
the web
text.
element,
Get
just
text.
with get text method is there, right? So I have to say the dot
Get text.
get text dot get text. Now if I run this, it will print the all the options available in that particular drop down. Okay. Now if you see, it's just printing the all the options. Okay. So first option is, let's say, red, blue, green, yellow, purple, black, white, violet, and all, I mean all the options. It's just printed. Okay. So how we printed all the, so this kind of question will ask at the time of interview how to print all the options, right? So for that you have to use the get options method. What this method will do, it will return the list of web element. It will return the list of web element. So now this list of web element you are storing here, and now with the help of for loop you are just iterating from the list of the web element, and what you are doing, you are printing the text of each and every element. You are printing the text of each and every element. Okay. So this is how we can or tomorrow maybe someone ask how to count how many options available in dropdown. How many options available in dropdown? How to count?
Size. Dot size.
Right. So all option dot
All
size. If I
options.
say right. So if I say like system dot out dot println all options dot size,
Size.
it is going to print the how many options available in that particular dropdown. It is going to print the how many options available in that particular dropdown. Okay. Now if I go here, now if you see it's saying like 11 option is available in this particular dropdown. So this is how we can print the options. Okay. Now see uh let's say let's say
Anjali
this is
sir.
the yes.
Sir, in a printing, we write each element dot get text, and if we will not use that particular get text method, then
Mhm.
still it will print all the web element on the console.
Web element means it will
Each
print some web element is basically it's storing the object like thing, right? So it will print, but how you will understand, right? Because it will not print in the form of human readable, right? So element, have you printed element previously? If I print it, so if you see, it will print something like uh which is not readable, we can say. So basically, you should not print the element. You should print the text of that element. You should print the attribute of that element. You should print the different attribute of that element, right? But you should not print the element as it is. You can print the text of that particular element. So that's the reason element related whatever command we have seen that we can apply here. Okay, now it's printing like this, right? So how you can understand which element this is talking about? So it's saying like, Chrome driver window, something like this. It's printing, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you should not print like
Yes.
this only. Okay, so
So
instead of that, you
with the help of get attribute, we will get the value of that attribute.
exactly right.
Okay. Okay.
So if someone say like, print the value of that particular all the options, right? So you're going to say like, each element dot get attribute. Okay, and which attribute I have to pass here? Value. Value is my attribute,
Right.
right? So I'm passing the attribute here value. Okay, so now what output should be? So it should print red 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 till 10 because these are the values available there,
Values
right?
of, yeah, red to 10.
Okay, now if you see red and from red to 10 it's printing, right? So get attribute method you have to use like this, right, Vipin? Here you have to
Yes, sir.
pass the um, so in your case you have to pass here src that you have asked earlier, right? Okay, we'll see after the
Yes.
session itself. Okay, don't worry.
Yes.
uh
Thank you.
okay, now I got how to print the options, then how to get the size of all option, then how to select the values. Okay, but what if like I want to check if by default red color is selected. By default red color is selected. This is my test case which is saying like if I land on this particular page, by default red color should be selected. By default this red color should be selected. This is my test case, right? So how I can get the by default red is selected or not, right? So for that, is there any method who can get me, who can tell me which option is currently selected or not? Okay, so for that, what I'll do, I'll just comment this code out. Okay, okay. Now select object we have already created. So I'm going to say select dot get first selected option. Get first selected option. Okay, so this method you have to use get first selected option. Now, if you see what exactly it's returning. Okay, so this is the method and it's returning what?
Web element.
Web element it's returning.
Web
So
element.
whatever web element
Okay,
related
create the
command you
variable.
can use here, right? So web
Mhm.
element related command means get text,
Get
get
text,
attribute, get CSS.
size,
This command you can use here, which we have seen earlier. Right. So I'm saying like, select dot get first selected option. Select dot get first selected option. And this particular method is returning the web element. This particular method is returning the web element. So I'm creating the variable of web element. So I'm saying web element. So let's say selected option. Selected option. Now which option is selected? Red is selected, right? So it's returning single element, right? So I'm not using the for loop, right? Is it required to use the for loop? Because it's not list of a web element. It's just a single element. So I'm going to say selected option dot get text. Selected option dot get text. Now, if you see,
value.
if I run this, so by default, which option is selected? Red.
Red.
Okay, so what will be the output?
Red.
Red will be the output. Okay. Now if you see, it's printing the red. It's printing the red. Right. So red option is printed here. Red option is printed here. Right. Why? Because first option is red selected, right? So tomorrow if I let's say click I selected let's say green. Okay. So let's say I have selected the green and I want to check, green is selected or not. Okay. So in that case as well, how it is going to work. So I'm going to say like, uh, basically it is just giving us which is the option currently selected, which is the option currently selected. So I want to check by default. So that's the reason I just landed on that page and I check like, which option is selected. But if my scenario is like, I want to select something and after selecting, I want to check that option is selected or not. Right. So in that case, what I'm going to say, I'm going to say select dot select by because I want to select the green. Right. So I'm going to say select by visible text and which option I have to select? I have to select the green. Right. Now, if I run this particular script, what it will do? It will open that particular page. Okay. It will select this particular green option. And again, it will say green option is selected. So it will print the green. Now it will not print the red. It will print the green. The red selected first. Now red to it changed to the green. And after that, we are saying like, get selected option. Then selected option is green. So it's printing the green now. It's printing what? Green. Okay. Okay. Now at the time of interview, interviewer can ask how to handle drop down. How to handle drop down. Question is what? How to handle drop down. Okay. So your answer should be to handle the drop down. First of all, you have to create the object of select class. You have to create the object of select class. Select class object means this one. You have to you have to create the object of select class. Okay. And for this particular select class, what exactly we are passing for this constructor? We are passing the object of here we are passing, sorry, not object, web element of drop down. You're passing the web element of your drop down, or you can say the select tag. Select tag, select tag web element you are passing here for this particular list. Right. So this is the step number one. Step number two, what you can do? You can, once the object is created, then we can say select dot three different method you can use to select the option. Which are those? These are the three methods. Okay. That you can use. These three methods you can use. What are those?
Get value.
Select
Get
value,
index.
select by visible
Select by
text,
value. Select by index.
select
Select
by
by visible text.
index.
Correct. So you should remember these three methods. Okay, these are very important methods. Okay, select by visible text, select by value, select by visible text, select by index, or select by value. Okay, so these three methods you can use. Okay, so but first step is you have to create the object of select class. Then you can apply these three methods. Okay, you can tell interview that first of all I have to create the object of select class. Then with the help of select by visible text, select by index, select by value, I can select the options. All right, so that's it. If you're telling like this two statement, he will get like you have worked on select or this I mean how to handle the drop down, right? Then he might be asked, how to print all the options. Then you have to tell there is one method available, get options. Get options method is there. It will return the list of web element. Okay, it will return the list of web element. Then you can apply the for loop, and with the help of for loop, you can print the text of that particular options. Okay. Then he will ask the question like, how to get the how to check, what is the default option selected. Okay. So to check the what option is selected, there is one method, first selected option. First selected option method is there. So this is the method there, right? First selected option. First selected option. With the help of this method, you can get which option is currently selected. Which option is currently selected. You can get with the help of this get first selected option. With the help of get first selected option. Any doubt in a list? Anyone?
No, sir.
Shivani,
No, Ajay.
Alisha, Murunal, Bindu.
Yes, sir.
It's clear, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So now tomorrow class is also important where we will learn how to select the multiple values from the drop down. Okay, multiple we have already, I mean, how to select the value that we have already covered, but how to deselect the values. Okay, so for example, if I selected this one, if I selected this one, I want to deselect this one, right? So is there any option to deselect the values, right? So we'll see tomorrow how to deselect the values as well. Okay, then we'll see this particular drop down, or maybe we'll see this particular drop down, how to select the value from this particular drop down, and then we'll see how to select the values from this particular drop. Okay, then drop down is finished. Okay. Okay, then we'll stop here and we'll meet tomorrow. Okay. If you are having any doubt, you can ask now. Okay. I'll stop the
Hello
recording.
Ajay.
Yeah.
Actually, yesterday I have tried one XPath.
Mhm.
Can I share screen for 2 minutes?